This was the smallest Amstrad setup you could get in 1986. And I got it because of the great graphics functions in the BASIC and this guy here, the game Batman. And that was, at that time, an Amstrad Cpc exclusive. And I had exactly that machine, an Amstrad Cpc 464, with a cassette drive and the green monitor. About a year later, I got the disk drive. That disk drive, the DDI1, introduced me to the 3-inch disk, which is quite an unusual format, which was only used by Amstrad and I guess later Spectrum machines. With this, I was actually able to access programs from disk. So you type cat for catalog, and as you see, there's nothing on there. In the beginning I had about 2 or 3 of these disks and that was all I had. And again, I was stuck with a book to program my own programs. And I did. I did do a game which I sold to a magazine when I was 12, and that all happened on the Amstrad Cpc. Let's take a closer look at the machine itself, how to use it, and maybe load Batman. So in order to load Batman, when you still have the disk drive attached, all commands go to the disk drive by default. So if you type load, nothing happens. If you type run, you get a bad command, and that is usually the way to load a tape. So to switch to tape, if you have a disk drive attached, you type the pipe symbol, which is the @ sign, and you say tape, and then you can just hit Control and Enter, and you get press play on tape, and you press any key, and off we go. And it's loading the Batman tape, which I did insert before. So let's see how this goes. And the nice thing on the Amstrad is that you can actually hear it loading. And there it is, Batman. And the first thing this tape does is load the title screen. So let's fast forward here. So there you have it. Let's grab the official Amstrad joystick, or as close as we get to it, plug it in and try it out. So the joystick port is actually, on my model at least, on the back side. There's also a model which has the joystick port on the left side, which I didn't know until this week. Wow, this joystick is really crunchy and shitty. That's interesting. So this is an isometric game. Okay, that joystick seems to be broken because I can't go to the right. So let's play this with the arrow keys. So this game didn't quite live up to the hype. It's a nice game, but it's not a really great game. And so I played it for a while, and then I decided to do my own game. So this is Batman on the Amstrad Cpc 464, if I recall correctly, I had a different version. This is a budget version. I had the full price version back in the day. Yeah, so let's take a look at this game, shall we? So I brought out the Epix Action Pack, 5 all-action games, which contains 4x4 off-road racing, street sports basketball, Possible Mission 2, California Games, and the game's Winter Edition. Let's check this out. It has one hell of an instruction leaflet inside and 2 discs which contain the 5 games. These discs, by the way, are double-sided, so we can use both sides. And let's see which is which. Okay. Okay, so we get a menu. That's nice. And let's check out Mission Impossible. Insert side 3, then press space. So, interestingly enough, these discs are only labeled 1 and 2, so I assume... Okay, this is side 3. And loading on the CPC disk drive goes pretty fast. It's not as sluggish as the 1541 on the C64. And there we are. That was real time. But, here we go. Okay, since my joystick is broken, there's no good way for me to play this. These are the steps, by the way. And there you have Mission Impossible on the Amstrad Cpc, and this ends here because, well, I can't go right and I can't go left, and I can only... Oh, okay, there's my... I have no idea. So this joystick drives me crazy. Okay, so you see this is pretty fast loading on the disk drive, and let me show you the different variants of the CPC 464 which I have here. So let's maybe start with the different monitors, and then I will show you the disk drive and get into a little bit more specifics, and then the different variants of the CPC 464 and the 6128 which I have here. At first glance, these 3 monitors look the same. But if you look a little closer, you might see quite some differences. These are the 3 green monitors that were available for the Amstrad Cpc series of computers, namely the 464, the 664 and the 6128. All 3 of them come with a power cable and a video cable attached in this spiral form. But if you look closer, you can see the left one has no plug in for the 12 volts, which the one in the middle has, and the one on the right side has. And if you also look closely, you can see that this one is called the GT64, which is the very first model released of this type of monitor with a CPC 464. And you have the GT65, which has the 12 volt input, which in reality is an output. So it delivers 12 volts to the disk drive of the 664 and the 6128. And the third variant even has a Schneider plate in the middle and on the front, and it's really called the GT65-2. And it also has this plug, and it does come with these carry handles on top, which the other 2 don't have. So these are the 3 green monitor variants for the Amstrad Cpc series of computers. And now let's check out the color variant. This is the CTM 640 color monitor for the Cpc series of computers. And as you might see, this one doesn't actually have a 12 volt input or output. So you can't use this monitor with the 6128 or the 664 because you can't power the disk drive. You need an external power supply, and that power supply doesn't need a plug, but it needs a female connector so that you can plug your computer into that female connector and get the 12 volts. There was a successor to this monitor, which was called the CTM 644, which then had the 12 volt input plug. We will take a look at these monitors and how they work. 4 days ago, this was my entire Amstrad Cpc collection. The standard Amstrad Cpc 464 with the GT65 green monitor, the manual, and a few games on cassette tape. So there's also an external power supply and a SCART connector to use this with my color TV. And then things got a little bit out of hand. This is how my collection looks 2 days later. Now I have 2 Amstrad Cpc 464s. I have 2 green monitors, the GT65 and the GT64. I have a DDI1 disk drive, still the same software. And then today happened, and that is when things get crazy. Now I have tons and tons of cassette tapes. I have 3 green monitors, 1 color monitor, 1 6128, 3 Amstrad Cpc 464, 2 DDI1 drives, a whole bunch of Amstrad software on disk and on tapes, and quite some books. So the DDI1 disk drive consists of 2 parts. The first part is this brick-like drive with a 3-inch floppy drive inside, and this is a Schneider model, and there are also different versions of the drive which is inside here. So this plugs to mains volt, so there's also the power supply inside here, but you can't do anything with this, at least with a Cpc 464, if you don't have the matching interface. And this interface plugs into the back of the drive. There's a second plug which can be used to use 2 drives with just 1 controller board, and you can put it on top here, connect the second drive, off you go. And this interface plugs into the back of the 464 like this. Wait. And this is not just a connection. This has actually a piece of software inside, which is the MS-DOS, which allows the 464 to interface with the drive. So all the disk commands are not present in the 464 BASIC. You do have these in the 664 and the 6128 BASIC, but not in the 464. And so you have a little BIOS ROM inside this controller, I guess, or the drive, that provides the commands. And as soon as you plug this in, all commands you normally can use for the cassette drive, like load and run and stuff like that, are redirected to the disk drive, and you have to type pipe tape to switch to the tape, or pipe disk or pipe A or B to switch to the disk drive A or B. So that is the DDI1. This is worth around 250 to 300 euros with the interface controller right now on eBay. I have 2 of these since this week. And let's take a look at the variants of the 464. So I do have 3 different variants of the 464 right now. This is the, I guess, original model, you could call it. It has the higher keys. If you look here and you compare it to the keys on this one, these keys are much higher. They resemble the C64 keys a little in terms of clickiness, and you can even hear the difference. So these are a bit yellowed. You might notice that here in Germany, from Schneider, we didn't have the fancy colored keys. So all German models look a bit dull. And yeah, this is the first version of the CPC, 464 at least. It does have volume knob, which can be used to hear the sound and also the data set. An on-off switch, counter for the tape. On the back side, we have the monitor input, the 5 volts input to run the machine. This machine needs the monitor or some other external power supply to work. Floppy connector, printer connector, and the joystick port and audio out. Yeah, that is version number 1. This is currently in working condition. Just one key is a little broken off down here. So this is not cleaned or anything, just got it this week. The second model would be this one, which is the one I've used before. And this has the flat keys. It's also in very nice condition, except for the rec button, which is a bit yellowed. It's also in working condition, tape works, everything works. Looks pretty much the same, except for the different keys. And then, and I wasn't aware of that, I got this version this week, which looks to be the same as the version in the back, but the ports are in a different position. So let's compare these. As you can see, the monitor and power connector is moved over here. The printer connector is moved over there. The floppy connector is there. And there's no sign of a joystick or an audio connector, because that has been moved to the side. And all descriptions are in, I guess this is Spanish and in English. So I don't know what this is about, but these are the 3 versions of the Amstrad Cpc 464 that I currently own. So let's take a look at the Cpc 6128. So this is the 6128, and if you compare it to the 464, you can see it's a bit narrower. Doesn't have the iconic cassette tape, and the keys are in different positions. Also has only one color of keys, which should be gray but is yellow in my case. It has this print on top with the colors and the key numbers, and it features 128K instead of 64, and as such had the ability to also use CPM, which was pretty common, or at least popular back in the day, and it had the 3-inch disk drive built in. In terms of ports, we compare the machines, we can see a lot has changed. We still have the 5 volts in and the monitor. We do have the on-off switch and the volume knob, which has been moved from the side to the back. And we have the disk drive connector. We have the expansion port and we have a printer port. So there's a new expansion port which was not present on the 464. I don't know if it was present on the 664. I have no idea. Also, both machines do have a speaker built in, and that is special to the 6128. We have a 12 volts input cable. So this needs to be connected to a monitor, and if we take a look at the GT65, you can see it has a 12 volts input down here, which in reality is an output. So you had to connect this to the monitor out or in on the computer, this to the 5 volts, and then you had to back connect from the computer to here the 12 volts to get power to the disk drive. And the earlier versions, the GT64, didn't have this input, and the earlier color monitor variant didn't have it either. As you may have seen, this 6128 has seen better days, has a crack in the hull, and I'm planning to repair that and to repair the machine because the disk drive is not working, and yeah, there's some work to do here. I also do have the original box from the 6128 in the room here, which I refurbished and taped together with fresh tape, and that is the box the machine was sold in. So the Amstrad cheapness factor of using a simple cardboard box and printing stuff on it continues here. No glossy full color styrofoam enclosure like with a C64, but just some cardboard box. That is chapter 2 of part 2 of my room tour series, and in the next part we will take a look at all the software and programs that I have since this week. So subscribe if you haven't already, and see you in the next video. This is Retro is Your New Black. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and until next time.